All right, welcome everybody. 1 Degree of Scandalous with Kato, Kalin, Tom Zenner here. Got a great show, and that means a great guest. And if everybody remembers the Fyre Festival, Kato, I know you do. We've seen the documentary.
Yeah, I still got my ticket and my wristband.
And that pending lawsuit against Billy McFarland. Let's bring the star of the Netflix version documentary of Fyre Festival, the one and only Andy King. Andy, welcome to the show, buddy. Great to see you.
Hey, great to see you guys too. Thanks for having me on.
Andy, I got to give you credit, man. You have not aged at all. That documentary was filmed several years ago. You still look outstanding. Is that good Charleston living, huh? That Southern hospitality, that Southern charm. Is that what does it?
Absolutely. Yeah, totally blessed to be here in the South.
That and drinking 18 truckloads of Evian. That's probably it. Keeps him healthy. Always drink that water, and thank God you didn't have to do anything to get that water.
Andy.
No,
And there'll be none of that in our show, by the way, I don't think. There we go. So everything's okay, Andy.
Andy,
we don't have to talk about that.
It's
always the white elephant in the room, the white elephant.
Yeah.
Right?
Andy, you just got your first introduction to Kato Kalin.
Kato, good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Many friends out in Charleston, South Carolina. I've been there a few times. I love it. And you are right. It's good living there. Southern charm.
Yeah,
Southern charm is right.
And Andy, you talk about scandals. That is one of the biggest ones of the last 20 years. And you got involved in this thing to help out. And let's make sure everybody understands about Andy's background. A major event and party planner in New York City. Amazing reputation. A lot of successful events, has been doing it for decades, literally. And that's probably why Billy McFarland called you. Well, also because I understand that you guys grew up in the same town, or at least he's a lot younger than you, but you're from the same town. But Andy, take us back, I guess, to the moment where Billy McFarland reached out to you and said, hey, I got this plan for this music festival in the Bahamas. It's going to be off the charts. What did you say?
Oh, boy. Well, ironically, I was hosting the World Cup Pro-Am Ski Championships up in Squaw Valley. And if you remember 2017, unlike most ski championships, we had one big problem: too much snow. And so we had trucks coming from 3 or 4 different states trying to get all the snow out to accommodate for the 140,000 people we had coming into Little Squaw Valley for the week. So I had my hands full, and I was doing the whole thing for Bobby Kennedy at the time, who was running Waterkeeper, and it was a big fundraiser for an environmental charity. In the middle of all this, the phone rings, and of course it's Billy, and he says, Andy, where are you? I'm in mountains in California. Wow, okay, where are you? I'm in the Bahamas. I said, well, what's going on? He said, well, I'm having a few problems, and I was wondering if you were able to fly in and kind of assess the situation. We're trying to host a music festival, and we've got a few things that are going wrong. I said, sure. I mean, you're going to have to give me a few days. Now, red light number one should have been, he sent a private jet to pick me up. I'd say that was probably about 60 grand. So it's kind of extravagant for a first-time music festival thrower. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, well, geez, maybe he's got great sponsors. No problem, And so I agreed to fly in. The rest, well, boy, I had one day to assess the situation. And I basically just said, guys, listen, things aren't pretty around here, but if you change the messaging to say this is not going to be a luxury music festival, it's actually going to be a cool music festival on the beach in the Bahamas. Bring your bikinis, your girlfriends, your boyfriends, whatever. There'll be great food and great music. Let's change the messaging. It ain't luxury. It's going to be tense.
Sure.
And as you guys know, the messaging got changed 10 hours before the first guest got there.
Andy, do you think if he was truthful and he said it's not luxury, you think there'd be a different outcome? If he was at that point where you said that, would have been a completely different outcome for the festival?
I mean, Kato, think about it. And I'm always quoted about this, but I'm one of 9 children. My oldest brother is 71 now, whatever. My 3 oldest brothers went to Woodstock. And nobody talks about the fact that there was no social media back then, obviously. So no one talks about the fact that the New York State Thruway is backed up by 30 miles. There was no water for 100 miles. There's no food. There were mudslides. People were dying left and right of drug overdoses. But the music continued, and no one talks about that. So I kept saying, geez, if Woodstock can go down in history as the most successful music festival, well, shit, you know what? Fyre has a chance here.
Yeah.
And, it's a beach. It's beautiful water. There's fish sandwiches. Hey, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
The music will play.
Yeah.
But social media, and that goes right back to the good old cheese sandwich.
That's
my biggest nightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Tom was saying there was no electricity. Why don't they just do an unplugged concert?
Yeah, that was
Make
that
it
was my
unplugged, right?
suggestion. Andy, that your instincts kicked in as an entrepreneur who's in this space, who knows how to do big events. My impression, and I don't know Billy personally, but he was trying to establish a brand for himself. I don't think it was about the music. It was about elevating him to this status that he's created this phenomena on an island in the Bahamas that he was marketing, with A-list celebrities, influencers off the beginning. I don't think that he was wired where he could possibly think what would be best for the people attending there. I think it was always about him. Is that accurate?
That's pretty accurate. And he had gone deep into debt of about 29 million bucks with investors. So at that point, there was no turning back for him. It didn't matter what was going wrong, that there was no turning back. He had to try to go to the last inning to get this product off the ground. There was no choice.
Yeah. Okay. Tom.
Is he delusional? Because when you were hours away, and remember the rain pelted, the island the night before. Anybody with 15 brain cells knew this was an epic disaster waiting to happen and a publicity nightmare. Is he delusional? Did he think he would somehow get out of this, or was he prepared to go to prison? Because there's no way you could think there'd be another scenario.
Well, and it really wasn't, I think, spelled out as accurately as it could have been in the documentaries. Nassau is 10 minutes away from Exuma. And with 24 hours out, some of the lead acts had all been flown in. They're all staying in Atlantis, the most expensive resort right there.
Right.
All they have to do is jump on a puddle jumper and fly over, which they could have easily done. And so I think that stayed in the corner of his mind. We had spent $2 million on a stage that was the most beautiful stage on the beach you've ever seen, in perfect working order. But the cheese sandwich went viral, and the managers started to cancel within 3 minutes. That sandwich went viral around the world because of social media, because one little girl takes a picture going, "Oh, really? Luxury food? Hell no." That cheese sandwich was never for the guests. It was always for the employees. But there was some kids that had too much to drink. So I said, you guys have to go over there and eat something. Tell Max it's okay. Andy said you guys could have a cheese sandwich. That cheese sandwich went viral. And that hit the management teams of all the top performers. And within 3 minutes, everybody canceled. Now, if one person had gotten on stage, Little Yachty or Blink-182, and started to perform, you can bet your britches kids would have gotten out there, started dancing in their bathing suits, drinking the Casamigos, and having a good time. It would have been salvaged, not to the extent that it had been advertised, but there would have been 1,000 kids there for 3 days making it work.
Yeah, they needed to have a performance. I don't think people knew. I think maybe Billy knew that Casino Royale, Daniel Craig, was filmed at Atlantis and the Ocean Club. That whole, it's just really upscale. And Andy, you're right. People staying there, it's a great image, and then flying over to the Exumas and doing the concert there. But when I watch the documentary, I feel so bad for the 300 workers. I just feel so bad they worked their tail off and didn't get paid. And then the woman who, the rental car, and they're cooking for people and crying in the documentary. I mean, my heart goes out to them that Billy must know the pain he caused to these people. I felt the pain for these people. And I'm like, God, this Billy, he really screwed over a lot of people. And, I don't know what the situations are today, but I'm sure he's probably hated in that area.
You'd be surprised. I mean, some of them really like him still. I can't figure out. Thankfully, I kind of cleared the air a little bit by doing speaking engagements around the world, creating 2 GoFundMes, and driving as much money as I could, which probably ended up being around $400,000 to the Bahamians. But keep in mind, none of them had a bank account. Everybody got paid cash. No one even had a timesheet. It was like, geez, Kato, hey, Tom, how many hours did you work? 9. Okay, here's your pay for the day or whatever. And so trying to track what people were owed, 400 people, I mean, it was unbelievable. But I feel like most of them got paid. There's still quite a few that didn't. And, it is sad because, boy, as you guys I'm sure know, the Bahamas every community is pretty damn poor except for tourists.
Yeah, it just is. Yeah. It's just it's a third world, but electricity. But Atlantis is just drop dead gorgeous. Are you still in a relationship with Billy? Are you friends?
We are. I try to play the good cop. I spent last year um, hosting a few different things with him in New York City. He's trying to relaunch the brand, and the plan obviously is to be able to pay everybody back. I think Tom and I had an original conversation now. I don't know how you're going to feel about this statistic, but basically since its inception, Coachella has had 34 million impressions on the internet. Fyre, 34 billion. I mean, it's unbelievable. So the brand is worth a lot of money because everybody who follows pop culture today knows Fyre.
Yeah.
And it's now still been years since 2017. It's still one of the most prominent, iconic, words in pop culture today. And so when anybody announces the next Fyre Festival, it'll sell out in 5 minutes. I don't care where it is around the world, but it's going to need the right team in place to make it happen.
But maybe he should be on the team.
Well, he should, Andy, I think you and I talked about this. Maybe he licensed it to a Live Nation or something. Billy owns the title. He could make money off that and leave it to the professionals to run an event. But let's talk about Fyre Festival 2, because it's more than a concept right now. This thing, hasn't Billy been promoting that and actually taking in deposits? Is there a chance that Fyre Festival 2 could happen?
I mean, here's the crazy thing. So let's say, I guess it was over the summer, he made an announcement of Fyre 2 and released 100 tickets, which sold in 1 hour. Boom. 1 week later, he announces a second round of tickets of 100, sells them in an hour again. Boom. Following week, he announces a waiting list, which apparently he's quoted in saying he raised $3.9 million for people that wanted to get on a waiting list for a festival somewhere in the Caribbean, sometime in 2024, and some kind of a lineup. Not one flipping thing is guaranteed or even locked in. The following week, he announces 10 VVVIP tickets for a festival somewhere in the Caribbean, sometime in 24, with some kind of lineup, and he sells 9 tickets at $1 million each. Who are these people?
Who are they? Yeah. I would like to know.
He obviously knows who the nine people are, and that's a very small little concert hall for 9 people.
He can flip a switch and drive revenue. That simple. I mean, that quickly. It's unbelievable. You think if a surgeon generally, or a lawyer has malpractice, you lose your license, right? There's no festival planning license, so he could still do this. He did time in prison, and Andy, isn't there an interesting anecdote about the con game he was actually playing in prison and what happened? And there was another victim from cell block 11?
Well, I don't know if you guys know this. So he was put into a country club prison in New York State, probably not far from my farm where I was living. And I kept getting the messages from his girlfriend, Andy, Billy wants to see you. And meanwhile, Netflix is like, not cool. You are not going to go see Billy McFarland. This is not going to be a good narrative for us with a documentary. So I decided I would hold off. Apparently, I don't know if it was his girlfriend or someone went and visited him. You can't make this up. Billy was sharing a cabin with Michael Cohen, Trump's lawyer, and Situation from the Jersey Shore. I mean, how could this happen? Who knows? So the guys are playing chess together every day, and they're working out, and they're playing basketball, and they're eating whatever. Billy has someone smuggle in a pen with a recording device in it. So every day he's just pretending he's doodling, but he's recording every conversation he's having with the guys because he wants to write this memoir about, famous people in prison. And he got caught. And he got sent to a high security prison in Ohio. And I think the only reason why they didn't kill him, he is typical with Billy as a young serial entrepreneur. He developed a concept of how prison inmates can communicate with their families who basically have nothing more than an 8th grade education. So he wrote letters for them. He prepared emails. He searched out email addresses, on and on. And he became a valuable player in prison. Well, he met somebody who I'm now just learning about, apparently by the name of John Taylor, who I've never heard of, who I guess was in prison for child trafficking. I mean, is this a Jeffrey Epstein situation? I have no idea how deep you go on that. But apparently he invested in Fyre 2 Pirate, which is the new holding company, and gave Billy 250 grand. On page 6, and so Billy and I stayed in somewhat fairly close touch until about a month and a half ago, and he dropped off the map. And I'm like, I wonder what's happened. Boom, page 6 hits, and John Taylor is suing Billy for 650 grand of fraudulent investment money that John feels like is not going towards the business, but towards Billy's personal lifestyle. And so, I mean, he's being closely watched by the feds. He's being closely watched by everybody. I don't know how he could possibly get away with it, but 2 days ago, he makes his first post in a few months with kids jumping off of a helicopter in Miami into the water and talking about here comes Fyre 2. It's crazy. I don't know.
You can't make this stuff up, Kato.
No, I'm blown away because I always thought that if you went to a federal prison, you cannot do anything involved with what you are in prison for, or be anything with any financials, anything that deals with possible wire fraud. So I don't know what the label was that he got in New York State.
Yeah, but
I just thought that was a United States law.
But he could be doing that on the down low inside the prison, just having conversation with them, and then they have his intermediaries taking care of it, right?
Right.
You have nothing but time in prison. I'm sure you could talk about an investment deal.
So as of today, Andy, Michael is, William McFarland is out of prison, and he's living somewhere.
Billy is living in New York, and he's running a company called Pirate. He's come up with several concepts. One's called Build It with Billy. So it's talking about, I think, people who need to restart their businesses and how do you do that. You know, he's quite smart and quite clever. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm not sure who are these people that he says are investing in him again. I don't know. And I always wanted the goodness in everybody. That's
and is it true? Does he really have those 9 people? I don't know. And you know, in the documentary, it's exciting that I was watching him going, he's got Ja Rule doing this. They're best buddies. This, and I'm sure that Ja Rule probably, I don't know for sure, got paid or whatever. But I wonder what that relationship is. Is he going to be involved in Fyre 2 or not? Or is that just I don't think that helped publicity for Ja Rule.
Yeah, I don't think they're in communication anymore. I mean, it's interesting. I don't think Billy's in close communication with anyone that was involved before, except for me. And I'm just, you guys probably saw, I did a show with Whoopi Goldberg called The Con on ABC a couple years ago. And Whoopi was like, Andy, you're still the only person that stands next to Billy. And I'm like, well, I didn't get paid. I never had a signed contract. I mean, I basically am owed about $1.5 million. I didn't jump on the bandwagon in the civil, civil lawsuit. And it behooves me to guide him in the right direction because the brand is so strong that if we were able to recreate some Fyre festivals and I'm able to recoup the money I lost and make something in the future, it's worth it to me.
Sure.
But, I've had plenty of people say, clients, family, financial advisors, if we ever see that you're working with Billy, you're done. We're done with you because you're never going to end up in the right position again. He's never going to pay you. And I'm like, no, I think you guys are wrong. But,
Hey, there's nothing wrong with being a little trustworthy. I thought Ja Rule came out looking the worst of anybody in that documentary. And Andy, you came out of it the star. And it's because you have this just likability factor. You're articulate, but you're natural, you're organic, you're real. People really, really gravitate to that. I mean, you can flip the switch on a camera and it works for some people. It works for you. We could talk about the white elephant, the big quote in the Netflix documentary that took off. But let me ask you this. What was it like to have your life change immediately? Because once that aired, you were a celebrity. You were known. People, I'm sure the phone was ringing off the hook. What was that experience like for you?
It was crazy. I mean, and here's the magical moment was at the premiere in New York City, in Tribeca, probably 1,200 people in the theater for the screening. I walked in, and anybody that was involved with Fyre, they're all sitting in the back. They have hoodies on. They're all hiding sunglasses. I'm like, shit. I mean, I wonder if I'm in like a bright pink sweater and I've got like 12 people with me and my name is like practically on my back. It's a whole row dedicated to Andy King. I had no idea what was about to happen. So we sit down, and I'm getting more and more anxious. And, I basically, just to back up quickly, it was 8 hours on camera at my farm, in my barn. And I had been kind of counseled by some of my business associates, like, Andy, do not tell that story. Don't tell it. I'm like, no, don't worry, whatever. So we go through hours of interviews, and then cameras are off, and someone hands me a vodka drink, and they're like, Andy, I said, wow, geez, I said, I wasn't going to tell this story having no effing idea that this was going to occur. So I tell, the wonderful white elephant oral sex story. And so the next day, my business partner's like, you didn't tell a story, did you? I'm like, well, I did, partially off camera, though, so don't worry, And he's like, you call Chris Smith immediately, and you say, you need to pull this. You got to pull it right now, because it'll destroy you. And I'm like, oh, God. And then my lawyer calls, like, what were you thinking? I'm like, oh, Jesus. So I make the call, and Chris is like, Andy. And do you guys, Kato, do you know Chris at all? Chris is an amazing director.
Yeah, I might have met. I did a few Netflix things, so I don't know, but I could have.
He did Tiger King, after us, and he did the Anna, or the girl that was abducted on, in Portugal, the
right.
daughter. Anyway,
Natalie
he's very
Grace,
talented. So
Natalia Grace.
Chris is like, Andy, you don't understand. We can't pull that, because the documentary is so intense. It's just, and then all of a sudden you do your part, and he's like, holy shit, what did he just say? Oh my God. And then it kind of goes back to the intensity. It's like, the bottom line is that what you said basically demonstrates how crazy it got down there. A successful event planner, after 30 years of a big career, is willing to do oral sex to save a music festival. We need to keep that, because that basically demonstrates, oh my God, this became such a shit show that this conservative guy who wears a Rolex and drives a Range Rover and belongs to a country club is still going to go give a blowjob to the head of customs to save a music festival.
Yeah,
and so that
and I do mean the head of customs.
So there I am in the premiere, sitting in the audience, and all of a sudden my part comes up. I am sinking down. I'm like, oh my God, here it comes, and I grab my sister's hand and my whatever, and it comes out, and boom, 1,200 people stand to their feet and start cheering my name in the middle of the theater, in the middle of this thing. I'm like, oh my God. And it wasn't until that point that I knew that my life was going to change overnight. I had no idea. My father always said, no one watches documentaries and they don't make any money. So, steer clear. Yeah, right, Dad.
Yeah, and then a star was created, and your life has never been the same. So what we learned is a little bit vodka fueled, to get that famous quote from you. But here's what I love about it, Andy, and I've watched this many, many times, is as you could see the wheels spinning in your head, and you're about ready to tell the story. Maybe you weren't thinking of doing it, but now you had come to grips with the fact that you're going to do it on camera for Netflix. But then you had this little sly comment where you said, this probably won't go anywhere. This is probably not going to get out there. Did you do that intentionally as kind of a wink, wink? Or were you just trying to get yourself psyched up by saying that and hoping that maybe it wouldn't take off because what you were about to say is so outrageous?
I really kind of hope by saying that they just weren't going to use it. I was thinking that I just say, you know what, this is not, whatever. I don't think you're going to use this, but I'm just going to tell you the story. Not thinking that, oh my God, that kind of content, which I've learned now, is invaluable. And so, life changed like that. I couldn't go anywhere without anybody pointing at me, wanting a selfie, it wasn't like I'm Leonardo DiCaprio where I'm like hands off. People are like, and I think because of the intimacy factor of what I said, you just don't talk about some sexual act like that without people that usually are close to you, that the world just felt like they were like my best friends. So wherever I would go, it's like, oh my God, can we have a selfie? I'm like, I couldn't go anywhere without people screaming my name. And it became a problem with Netflix because I said to their PR team, listen, I was doing all these promo things. And I said, I can't, and they're like, Andy, I think you're exaggerating. At one point I was in LA and we had some big premiere thing that we were doing, and it was a mob scene. And I finally looked at the PR team and they're like, okay, we need extra security. Someone needs to get Andy out of this building. He's going to go through the kitchen of the restaurant. leave his limo out front, someone get another car to pick him up out. I'm like, finally, you guys understood, because it was really kind of unnerving.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and
like,
it's being called. You're very approachable, so people can approach you and feel like, oh, I know this guy. Tom had mentioned, and I want to get your point of why you think Joe Rule came off terrible, and then I want to hear what Andy has to say about it, because I think that's that. When I was watching, I want to see what your opinion is.
By the way, it's great you two met, Andy, because you two have a lot in common. Kind of thrust into something, and very approachable people in your life, changed forever. My thoughts on Ja Rule is he was just trying to live up to that rap star vibe, and he was just so cocky, and he just kind of played into Billy's strengths a little bit, and but you can see Billy just using him, in my opinion. I think Billy just had him right where he wanted. And then, some of the quotes that were just so generic, we're going to party like rock stars, we're going to bang like porn stars. It's just like not original, not real good. And you could just see he was a little bit in over his head. I think he was naive. I think he thought probably like this was going to resurrect his career, put him back on the, as an A-list rapper and performer and businessman, entrepreneur, probably like a Jay-Z or some of the other guys that he looked up to. And I just thought he did not look good in this thing.
And plus, he doesn't participate, so that makes you also say, yeah, there's no relationship there. Drew Rule's not do it. How about Andy? What do you think?
Oh, God. Once again, I'm never sure what I'm allowed to say or not say. But let's just say that we've all met people in the entertainment world and the creative world that aren't really good business people. And so I think that would be a safe thing to say. I think Ja Rule saw an amazing opportunity, but in the end, I don't think anybody was counseling him on like, what should you be saying during these videos and what's appropriate, behavior and how should you be acting. And, it was definitely, I think Billy needed him to kind of get the lineup and to show that he had, somewhat of a good team around him and that people should be wanting to perform at Fyre. And I think Ja Rule was probably an integral part of that. But other than that, he's certainly not standing by Billy anymore. And I think that he definitely got thrown under the bus.
He obviously didn't have management with him to say, don't do this, don't do that. And when they were talking about Ja Rule, they're saying, oh, no, that was committing fraud. He goes, no, that's just false advertising.
Right. He had some lines that he wishes
I was
he
like,
could have. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine watching that? You're just wincing or you're his manager. Andy, describe the opportunities that came from it, though, because, you become very recognizable. You're known for this quote. You owned it all the way, but it did lead to a lot of great opportunities, didn't it? I mean, didn't your phone start ringing opportunities in LA, talk shows, reality shows?
It was pretty crazy. I mean, within, I'd say, probably 30 days, I immediately got representation from one of the best agencies in the world. I flew to LA. I began working with Brent Montgomery with Wheelhouse. Brent partners with Jimmy Kimmel. They had a dinner party for me. They had 100 celebrities. I was the celebrity for the night. We ended up with 8 television show offers from me. 8 within a month. And it's sort of unheard of. But when you speak to Netflix, talk to Ted directly, like in the meetings that we had, they basically kept saying, Andy, you're so unique because the millennials love you. You can go down the list of just all age groups loved me. So the marketing department was like, this is very strange. Like, this is not the usual to have this kind of a character, and that my draw was very strong. And so we did end up designing a show that Netflix did pay for, and we shot the pilot, and it was a show where I'd fly around the world saving events that were going wrong. And it's quite an interesting show. And, we were having a lot of fun at the beginning. COVID hit immediately after. And of course, the show got shut down and no one was traveling around the world and no one was having large events. And I think that, also Tiger King hit, my fame began to back down a little. That damn Carol Baskins jumped in and took the spotlight from me.
That tiger loving bitch.
Oh my God. And I know damn well she killed her husband and buried him in the back lawn, but now apparently he's finally resurrected. So he's not dead at all. But
Tiger King too. Andy, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Evian Water. I think they owe you a 7-figure paycheck. Are you cool if I try to negotiate something for you? Come on. When you talk about those billions of impressions, a lot of it was because of that quote, if not 80% of it. And Evian Water is mentioned in all of it. Did they ever talk to you? Did you ever hear any reaction from them?
It's amazing. We did, Evian did reach out. There's two brands that I love in the world, and they're represented by the same PR team. It's Evian and Tito's vodka. And they're two things that I do drink a fair amount of. So they did reach out. They designed a water bottle for me, which actually had kind of like a rainbow flag on it. It's for a little nod to the gay world. And they asked me to do a post for them. I always talk out of turn. It doesn't matter. We negotiated some amazing deal of $7,500, which was like pulling teeth. I was like, oh my word. Meanwhile, it got over 20 million impressions or something. And it was funny because everybody kept saying, Jesus, it became like a scandal. Like they were saying, I think this whole thing is bullshit. And I think that Andy partnered with Evian to do one of the most clever ad campaigns in the world. I'm like, well, I actually didn't. I wish I had. We had talked about me going to Evian to the Alps to talk about this amazing family that launched the company and how they've changed this town and rebuilt a train station, and they employ all the everybody that lives nearby. Like, it's an amazing story, but they never went anywhere with it. And I thought, wow, what an amazing lost opportunity, right? I mean, holy smokes. I really helped put them back on the map. It's pretty cool.
I wonder if it would have been an ad decision if the bottle was in the shape of a. I'll forget it.
Oh boy! Oh yeah.
There we go.
I would say no. I'd say no. Don't do it. But the flag is fine, Andy. And it'd be a big deal. 20 million impressions. Yikes!
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Andy, what's on the horizon? What's on in the future for you? 2024. The opportunity's still out there. You heading off to shoot anything?
I am. It's all in the down low, so I can't say too much. I've signed a deal with a new reality show. I'll be shooting for 3 or 4 weeks, probably in Europe. The show will probably be aired in the fall. They're keeping most of the participants in the dark a little bit, but I think there'll be, 12 or 14 people on the show. Sounds kind of like a bit of a popularity contest, which you guys can imagine I'm pretty good at. I think people get voted off the show. It sounds like it could be fascinating. And the executives that are working on it are thinking it could be a good platform for me to launch some kind of a talk show or something after this gets premiered. So
great.
I'm kind of excited about it.
Good for you.
Don't
Kato,
tell us what it is, but is a network, I imagine, and it starts with a C?
No.
Okay.
Oh.
Kato, do you have any trips to Europe planned? Are you on the show?
No, but my family, the Kaelin is my last name, Kaelin. I never even told you this, Tom. I don't get any money for it, but we are from Switzerland. It's the Kaelin ski clothes, probably only sold in Stadt and Aspen. That's Alfred Kaelin, and you can check it all out. That's our family, a town
amazing.
of Kaelin.
Learn something new with Kato every single day.
I'm a citizen automatically. My father's there, so I've got to figure out how I've got to check out. That's my plan, is to go to Switzerland within the 2024, 2025.
That's so funny because I want to go there so bad. So does my wife. We keep talking about it. Go to Zurich. It just looks so glamorous and charming and exotic.
Stadt is it.
Yeah,
That's the. I don't know if Andy's been there. It's.
Oh yeah.
I was gonna say. You look like a jet setter. You are a jet setter, so you've probably been everywhere.
Yeah.
Shooting a show where people get voted off a mansion. I don't know. I'm making this up, but you're gonna go, and I've got a feeling that I might be on that show. So let's act like we don't know each other.
Okay, good idea. Oh my God. Well, so Kato, do you have dual citizenship? Do you have another passport?
My parents have passed away. I've got to do everything I'm doing now is through my sister and my family. I come from a family of 7, so
right.
And I gotta figure out. But it is the town of Kaelin, and the coat of arms have got it all going on. So I'm pretty sure I am, but I don't want to say 100% positive.
Wow, that's another episode. In I'm excited. And by the way, Andy, we definitely want to have you back after the reality show, and we're going to stay in touch throughout this whole
Oh, I
process.
love it, Andy. Yeah, what a fantastic time talking to you. Once again, approachable.
Yeah.
That's why it works.
And Andy, I have one
Kato,
last question for
about-
you. Go ahead. Ask Kato what you're going to ask him.
Well, just it's like, what do you do when shit goes wrong, right? What do you do when this?
Well, I've
when
got a feeling that.
things happen?
I think I'm probably the same as you. I've got incredible family base and friends. Anytime anything goes wrong, trust what they have to say, and never think you're bigger than what you are. And you know what? I live by that. My parents, who married forever, the best advice is the way I was brought up. And that's why during the trial and people picking on me and wanting to fight and just going through any kind of depression, I always knew who I was. And it in LA, people are going, you need to see a psychologist. I got a friend. I go, no, I know who I am. And so I think it's the base of having discipline of who you are.
Yeah, I love that. And I also think it's sort of when you reach a level of fame, like, what do you do with it? And for me, I give speeches and talks to universities and to corporations about embracing failure, risk taking.
Yeah.
Like, think about today, all these young kids, they're totally risk adverse. Everybody's coddled by their moms and dads. Like, oh my God, I'm like, no, listen, get out there and fail. Get out there and go to work for a company that's a startup, that's trying to drive positive change, that's trying to make the world a better place, but stick to the trajectory, which is like, what do you want your legacy to be, And it's not like, oh, he drove the fanciest car and no. The guy spread love. Like, wherever he went, he lit up a room. Yeah. He tried to, it wasn't criticizing people needlessly on the internet. Like, and that was the whole thing. Social media is what brought us down so quickly. And then how do you work on changing the trajectory of social media today and influencing kids to try to spread love and not to criticize?
Yeah, it's great.
It's not an easy journey. But.
Andy, I think we should write a book together called "Okay, I'm Famous, Now What?"
Yeah.
Boom.
King and Kato.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with having positivity as part of your brand. And that's why I knew you two guys would really, really connect. Last thing, Andy, before we let you go. So Billy McFarland has the disaster. It's unfurling in the Bahamas. He in case of emergency, break glass. He calls Andy King, who was in Tahoe in Northern California, flies you out on a private jet from Northern California to the Bahamas to assess the disaster, see what you can fix. Okay, here's the question. How did you get back? Was it on a private jet from the Bahamas back to New York, or was it a little bit different mode of transportation?
Well, let's see. So as shit started to go down very quickly, we had created a safe house in the Bahamas on Exuma where all of the key players could go and no one could get to us. Well, the safe house wasn't safe at all. And the morning that everything went down, I went over to the safe house. A week before, I had built this amazing tent, this huge structure to create all the food for all these kids, these thousands of kids that were coming in. I had barges bringing in used kitchen equipment from Miami. And I learned from the powers that be that this big structure had to be air conditioned. I'm like, holy shit, how do we get air conditioning in 48 hours? Like, this is, yeah. So I got into bed with Bubba, who ran the HVAC company on Exuma. And he's like, all right, Ada, I'm going to do this. And I said, listen, the second day of this festival, I will pay you. I know it's 48 grand in cash. I will pay you the 48 grand. Don't worry. Boom. They're like, okay, fine. Then the electrical company's like, Andy, you need XYZ, the permits are relying on this and that. I'm like, oh my word. So I crawl into bed with maybe, let's just say 2 or 3 contractors. And so the morning as shit is going down, the gates are locked. The 400 employees are trying to get in. I go over to the safe house and I walk in. It ain't safe at all. Like, there's 10 people that we owe money to that are just hounding us. And so it literally is like you could hear like a drum beat in Africa. I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And there's Bubba. He's like, where's the 48 grand? I want it right now. And I'm like, well, Billy's over there. He's on the phone. We're going to have to talk to Billy. Electrical contractor. Andy, I want my money right now. Like, you're not going anywhere. I'm like, oh my God. And so in the middle of all of it, my lawyer calls. He's like, how's it going? I'm like, well, not good. He's like, well, you have one instruction. You are not Mother Teresa and you're not Jesus. Get the F off that island right now. I'm like, I can't leave all these people. Like, Andy, You have no signed contract. You've never been paid a penny. You've been there almost 7 weeks. Shit has gone down. This is now danger zone. Can you imagine? And I'm like, I am living in a movie, which of course, obviously became quite a popular one. So I call my assistant on cell phone. Meanwhile, Billy and I are driving the two only Cadillac Escalades on the island. I'm like, no. Somebody ditch that car. You go borrow, I said to my assistant, borrow the shittiest car you can find. You need to come pick me up. She's like, all right. I said, and you got to come fast. I looked at someone who worked with me, for me, who was in like dirty jeans, baseball cap, pit-stained T-shirt. Meanwhile, I'm in my Gucci shoes. I'm in linen shorts. I've been cooking in the tent, trying to make breakfast for the kids. And I mean, I looked at one of the boys. I said, we're trading clothes. He's like, what? And I said, everybody knows. They all know. It was a bright pink linen shirt. I'm like, he's like, okay, hell yeah. So we literally traded clothes. And I hid behind a porta potty for like 40 minutes because, of course, everybody was searching for me. Sophia finally pulled up in this broken down Honda, and I jumped in the back seat and I laid on the floor. And I said, just drive and get us out of here. So we got to the gate where everybody was literally trying to knock it down, drove through, and within 1,000 feet, we got an effing flat tire. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, I'm in like this kid's flip-flops that don't fit. I'm in these jeans, I said, just pull the car over. And I said, I still had like a half a mile to get to the house that I had rented. And I started running. And every time a car started to approach, I would jump in the woods and like lie down under a tree. And then the car would go by and I'd continue to run again. Finally got to my house and I packed my bags. I said, Sophia, you got to help me. I don't know what we're in. She said, okay, I've got Isabel on the line. I shouldn't be using all these names. And I just said,
Did you get off the island? Are you still there?
Oh, I'm in this house. I say to Isabel, you need to get me off this island. She's like, all right, Andy, I'm going to make a call. I don't know if this is going to work, but I said, just call. So she calls the private jet company. Meanwhile, we've used 21 credit cards to keep paying these people. And for some effing reason, they allowed one more jet. And it was mine. And so I just said, I got to get off there. I said, all right. But it's going to be 5 hours before this jet arrives. I'm like, 5 hours? They're going to fucking kill me. Are you kidding me? This is unbelievable. So I said, all right. So I said to my assistant and a few other people, I'm going to go take a walk on the beach. I have disappeared. I will be back in a couple hours. Meanwhile, I walked a half mile down the beach. I think I fell asleep under a tree, whatever. Came back. My assistant said, oh, boy, you're lucky. I said, what? She said, well, the Minister of Finance, the head of tourism, and somebody else have been sitting here waiting for you for an hour. I'm like, why me? Like, I didn't sign anything. I'm not like, well, I'm the only gray-haired guy on the island. I'm like, oh my God. I said, how did they figure out where I live? And my assistant said, well, you were in Bermuda last weekend because in the middle of all this, I'm hosting the opening ceremonies for the America's Cup in Bermuda. And so I had to leave for 24 hours. I come back. She said, oh, well, one of the high-level government officials wanted a nice villa like near the ocean that they could have a meeting. And I offered yours because you weren't around. So everybody knew where I lived. I'm like, oh God, you gotta be kidding me. So I just said, okay, call one of my other employees. They arrived in a pickup truck. I got in the back of the pickup truck and I had them cut like 20 palm fronds, which they put over me. So I laid in the back of the pickup truck like it was the gardener's truck with, all the grass clippings in the back. I laid in the back with the palm fronds over me, and we got to the airport, but it's still a couple hours out. And so I'm like, you guys, I park it in the woods. So, we were literally parked in the woods. We were just waiting for the call for my tail number to say that the jet had arrived. And finally, the jet lands. I said to the driver, listen, you get this right up to the door, but I had to walk through and show my passport to the private jet girl behind the counter or whatever. And thankfully there was, and it was full of all the big investors that were trying to get out as well. And they were all waiting for their jets to leave. So I somehow had a baseball cap on, whatever. I went through, ran onto the plane. I had 2 security guards with me and the head of security got on the plane, and of course the pilot comes out. I said, just get in the seat and start flying. He's like, whoa. I said, can you just please, So I mean, he literally starts up, and I'm like, I was just waiting for like 20 officials to come and surround the plane. I'm just shitting in my pants.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, finally, we start to go, and it really wasn't until liftoff. Like, I was like, oh my God, we got off, because I just thought they were going to stop.
You're free.
Me, and that I'd still be there today. Like,
It's like,
you know,
wow.
it's like Ben Affleck in Argo, right?
Yeah,
You leave Iranian airspace. You had to get out of the Bohemian airspace, and you were, we're free.
Well,
Okay.
you're alive. We're happy.
Okay,
And
you made
where
it.
did that plane land, by the way? It took you to
New York.
Miami or New York?
Now, Kato, disaster. So, of course, I say to the pilot, where are we headed? And he's like, Miami. I said, Miami? We can't go to Miami. There are 4,000 kids there mad at me because I canceled all the flights now. No one can get over to the island. They're like, well, I said, any other airport? Okeechobee Airport. You haven't heard of it because no one ever goes there. But somehow you can land a jet there. So we get there. I mean, it's in the Everglades, the middle of nowhere. I don't know how I got an Uber. I said to the Uber driver, listen, I don't know where to go. Like, you got to, and my assistant calls like, Andy, I hate to tell you, but the only place you can stay right now is in Miami, and the car's taking you there.
All right.
No. And of course, I end up at Soho House where all the rich kids are staying. I've got like a bag over my head. I'm hiding in my room. The next morning, I flew back to New York. But oh my God.
All right. He made it.
We love it. We love it. We can't wait. These stories are great.
That's an adventure. Well, hey, I know we could go on and on and on. We're going to do part 2 after the reality show, if that's cool with you.
I love it.
Okay.
love it.
Best of
Congrats,
luck,
congrats.
Andy. You're the man. Seriously, great job on the documentary and everything else. Congrats on an amazing career, and leverage this stuff to the top, baby. With
To
your
the
attitude.
very top.
All right. All
Bye,
right,
Andy.
All right. Hey,
All right,
that
you
was
guys,
awesome.
thanks
You
for
are
having
the
me
king.
on.
He is the king.
Andy, hang on for a second. Hey, if
okay.
you haven't seen the documentary Fyre Festival on Netflix, it's amazing. Go check it out. It's one of the best. Kato, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Great week. Make sure you download and subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, everywhere you get your audio podcasts, and follow us on social media, okay?
Can I wish everybody to give you a belated birthday wish or not?
Sure.
Hey, give him a belated birthday wish. He's Tom Zenna.
Another year younger.
Yeah.
All right.
Happy
Another year of
birthday.
denial.
Yes.
Another year of denial. Hey, thanks, everybody. 1 Degree of Scandalous. We'll catch you next week.